Shalom. Call hello Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rekah Kwadash. Double honors into the apostles, double honors into the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. Now more so than ever, the would-be judges, the 144,000, the tabernacle of David that has been chosen to be the judges of this earth under the authority of who the world fraudulently and falsely calls JC. All right, he's setting up a new government made up of the 144,000 Israelites, judges, men. All right, but they won't be normal men; they will be immortals, according to the scriptures. All right, First Corinthians, the 14th chapter, which seems it should be more believable than floating around in some make-believe city up above the clouds. All right, because the will of the Lord will be done on earth as it is in heaven, just like the Lord's prayer says. That's when it happens. All right, when the 144,000 are the new government here upon earth over all the other nations, led by King David, who will be back to lead the Israelites yet again. Amos 9 and 11 tells you that the Lord will restore the close of the breaches and restore the tabernacle of David as in the days of old. All right, and to the rest of the scattered elect, the rest of the Israelites that are scattered among all the other heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black or color thing at all. It's an Israelite thing, and the Israelites are scattered and will be gathered up and redeemed. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone, coming at you another report. All right. And what's going on in the earth right now, and how the end of Esau Edom is at hand. You know, they're talking about 30. The way things are going is highly unlikely that we'll make it another 4 years, to that. Major things, between internal conflicts and external conflicts. There's no way that this place could last that much longer. So before I even go any further, I'm going to read the copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for the purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All right, so I have two videos that I'm going to play. I'm going to play about 6 minutes of this video and maybe about 6 minutes of the other video. All right, and then I'm going to bring out some scripture. Okay, and before I play either of them, I'm going to play this short video of this this lady here. Let me pull it up. Let me find it. Because she's going to explain it. And here's the reason why I'm using these videos, because all three videos, they explain it so exquisitely as to what's really going on right now. All right, with Amalek, the being an unruly child, taking the place of his parent, which is America, the beast. All right, this unruly child has grown up, is now stepped into the shoes of its parent company, so to speak, which is why everything is catered toward a foreign country and everything is for them, and not for the average, the majority of the broke, struggling Americans. All right, as they provide an eloquent lifestyle for the Ish. All right, and the Ish are put before Americans, point blank, period, in their own country.
If you don't know what's happening right now, I'm going to break it down to you like you're five. So America is the parent company of Israel. It's been the parent company of Israel for decades. America funds Israel using U.S. taxpayer dollars. It provides its weapon and security, etc. And this has been going on for decades. And right now, the parent company, the U.S., has reached old age. It has accumulated all this debt. It's time for it to retire. It's also reached its stage of dementia. And so right now, you have 250 U.S. legislators that have gone on a trip to Israel, which is completely paid by Israel, but really the U.S. taxpayer. And they've gone there to basically pledge allegiance to the country, which is really pledging allegiance to their new boss. I just want to make something really clear here right now. This is the largest U.S. bipartisan delegation to ever visit a foreign country. Do you understand? These are U.S. lawmakers. They're U.S. lawmakers. They make laws in the United States of America, and they just went to another foreign country to pledge allegiance.
Exactly.
So take a minute and process that how you wish. At the same time, TikTok and the U.S. have finalized a deal, basically saying that the U.S. is going to have a separate TikTok app from the global TikTok app, which will be controlled by Zionist algorithms. It will be controlled by 3 companies in the U.S., Oracle, Silver Lake, and Harrods, which are all 3 Zionist entities. Do you understand what's happening right now? Our information is being hijacked by a foreign entity. I cannot stress this enough. At the same time, they're saying that it will be an American board with U.S. government oversight, but obviously it will also be Israeli oversight and an Israeli board. The app will look exactly like the TikTok app, except it's going to be controlled by U.S. and Israeli algorithms. So they will be pushing Zionist propaganda all day, every day. Despite this country being hijacked by a foreign entity that has been in the making for decades, I still remain very optimistic, mainly because I feel like situations like this have to reach an extreme level for people to wake up, mobilize, and take action. And unfortunately, now you have people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens saying things like, it's not the right versus left. We need to come together. And basically, we need to come together because the country is being hijacked by a foreign entity. Another part of it is like, I'm not worried about this TikTok thing because it's time for us to create alternatives, to get into the mindset of an alternative to TikTok, something that is made for us by us, an alternative to Starbucks, an alternative to Spotify. We need to be conscious about what we are supporting.
Yeah, well, that all sounds good and dandy, but the fact of the matter is that this is leading up to 2nd Ezra, the 15th and 16th chapter. And I always clown the average American, tell them they are not the home of the brave. They are the home of the bend over, get on your knees for Israel. And that's exactly what they are. And the whole world is seeing it now. The whatever's on those Epstein files, it has, all these people in high places, stand on their knees and bending over for Israel and allowing them to do whatever they want to the American citizens. It's out in the open now. Everyone knows it, and it's creating a major problem. As a matter of fact, here I'm a screenshot. I hate to put them out there, but the men of the Lord, we've been out there for decades now. Starting with our apostles and elders, putting ourselves on the line to do this work. But this is a guy that is a fighter. This is an Italian fighter named Marvin Vittori. And he made a statement that said, fuck all these people. This shit is getting out of hand. They control everything. Fuck these, Ashkenazi Jays. They want control over the world. Here, I said it. And that was said by, which he immediately will no longer be a UFC fighter, unfortunately. After making this statement, I can imagine the phone calls and he's gonna his career is over. All right, he's gonna lose every endorsement. Everybody's going to back away from him. All right, and and the name of this video is going to be called Psalms 73 and 5 no longer applies. So let's read that, and then I'm going to go ahead and play these videos and actually try and just let them play. I'm actually trying to hold my peace. It's hard, the spirit jumps on me and I have to speak. But they pretty much tell on themselves. So this is Psalm 73 and 5, and it says, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Their pride compasses about them as a chain. Violence covers them as a garment. And that's no longer the case of them not being in trouble. All right. Because they're exposed now. The Lord has exposed Esau and got Esau in all kinds of trouble. As a matter of fact, the leader of the beast and the leader of, of over there in the Holy Land of the convert hijackers who've hijacked the Holy Land, Ezekiel 36:5. Their leader also is in all sorts of legal trouble, which is why these perpetual wars are being waged by both of them, because as long as both countries are in a state where their security is in danger, which, their security is in danger because of their own actions, by the way, these leaders cannot be processed. So it's the citizens that are paying the horrible costs. So without any further ado, let me get the sound up, and here we go. Mr. Zelensky from Secular Talk.
I think it's fair to say that the U.S. economy at this point is beyond cooked. We are getting horrible, horrible warning signs. Day after day, they are piling up one on top of the other. Let's start with this one. 91% of fund managers believe U.S. stocks are overvalued. That's the most in history. 91%. In other words, let me put this into layman's terms for you. We're in a bubble. That bubble's going to burst. When that bubble bursts, oh my goodness, is the pain going to be widespread. Because think about it. The giant bubble that we're in, a lot of the heavy lifting is being done by these tech stocks because of the AI boom, right? But, as we're already seeing, we're beginning to see the air come out of that bubble a little bit because people are beginning to realize, well, hold on now. It seems like people overpromised with AI, underdelivered for AI, and China's already ahead of us anyway. And now you get these horror stories of, people becoming psychopaths because AI convinced them that they're some sort of mega genius. We're already seeing a number of those dystopian stories like they come from some fucking sci-fi novel or some shit. So, not good to say the least. All right, let's keep going. I'll give you more. People Googling help for mortgage. It has now surpassed 2008. That should terrify you because in 2008, we had this little thing called the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. The housing market collapsed is what that was. Now, even more people are Googling help with mortgage. We are building on quicksand, y'all. That's what's happening. All right, more. Foreign central banks now own more gold than U.S. treasuries for the first time in 30 years. 30 years. So this alludes to what I've told you guys about, that because the U.S. is giving the middle finger to our allies and saying fuck off to the world, what's happening is they're going, okay, you know what? Now if there's an economic downturn, the flight to safety is no longer going to be to the dollar because the dollar is not stable, the dollar is not secure, the U.S. isn't the world's leading power anymore. Now the flight to safety is to gold. People are buying gold instead of dollars. In 2008, when we had the Great Recession, the dollar got stronger. Why? Because the flight to safety was to the dollar. Now the flight to safety is to gold. And this is further evidence of it here. That now central banks own more gold than U.S. treasuries. And that's only going to get worse and worse and worse. All right, more. Gold has hit an all-time high. Ladies and gentlemen, that's another indicator of a recession or a depression coming. Gold strengthens when there's a recession or a depression. Precious metals strengthen in those times. And it's the opposite. In a boom market, they're worth less. Florida home prices are falling for the first time since 2008. 2008. This is what it looks like when a guy who bankrupted casinos says his economic policies will, quote, lower grocery prices on day one. Ready for this? Roasted coffee, the inflation in roasted coffee, 21.7%. Beefsteaks, 16.6%. Eggs, 10.9%. Apples, 9.6%. Candy and chewing gum is 8.1%. Bacon, 7.2%. Frozen non-carbonated juices and drinks, 7.1%. Frozen fish and seafood, 6.7%. Bananas, 6.6%. This is what we're looking at. This is the inflation that we're looking at. This is not something that working class families can deal with. In the U.S., we've always had pretty bad inflation when it comes to the staples of life. When it comes to healthcare, health insurance, for example, we had a lot of inflation there. Housing, we had a lot of inflation there. But the trade-off for that was like, okay, you get cheap consumer goods and cheap food. Well, now that's going away because of the trade war, because of the tariffs. And so what do you do in a scenario where all the other stuff that was expensive is still expensive and getting more expensive, but now you don't get the cheap consumer goods and you don't get the cheap food anymore?
They're trying to step up all of our efforts so they can maintain complete control over us so that they can bring the Amazon model into...
Trump says public companies should not have to report quarterly results. Why is he saying this? Why is he doing this? Because he knows those numbers would be a fucking horror show. So in the same way he brought in a guy for Bureau of Labor Statistics to bullshit and lie and say, oh, we had a lot of job creation when we don't. The same way he brought in a political hack for that. Now he's saying, what if we reported the numbers less? Let's release them less often. We don't need to release them as much as we do. Why? Because he knows they would be fucking terrible. He knows that. New homes for sale, and this is in the south of the U.S. Ready? This person says, you're right, we aren't in 2008. It's worse. So now there are more homes for sale in the south than during the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. Student loans, 90-plus days delinquent, have exploded higher to heights never seen before. So remember, because of COVID, we had the temporary pause of having to pay back the student loans. Trump extended that. Biden came in and extended that. Biden tried to do a more wide-ranging student loan reduction program, right? He tried to wipe it out a lot of different ways. Credit to him for that, but some of them were allowed. Other ways were blocked by the courts. And then Trump comes in and Trump says, no more student loan debt relief, and we're going to unpause it, and we're going to try to make it go back to the higher rates. If anything, you have to pay more than you did before.
So as he shaves off numbers, doctors up numbers, because Esau loves to play with statistics and change them to benefit him and to make you look bad. That's one of the things they love to do. But you know, he makes life easier for himself, but more difficult for the people. Make the people pay for his issues that he created. See, that's the thing. You live in a country where your government creates this debt that destroys the economy and makes life bad for everyone. But then they turn around and make you, the very citizens that they fucked over, pay for it, you know? And as a matter of fact, let's go to James 5:1. It says, go to ye now rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted and your garments are moth-eaten. This is why the dollar's crashing and people are running to gold, all right? Poor people get silver. All right. Silver is the poor man's gold. As a matter of fact, silver is the price, the cost, and the wealth of silver is highly suppressed in this society on purpose to prevent the middle class from raising up. Silver is worth way more than what they give it here in America. All right. In the West, period. It says, it says, your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. You have heaped up treasures together for the last days. So not actual gold and silver, but their gold and silver, meaning the dollar, the greenback, is worthless. Behold, the hire of the laborers which you have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them which reach are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth, the Lord of wars, the Lord has heard the cries of his people, and the Lord has seen enough wickedness done on earth by you Edomites. All right. And you kept back our earnings by fraud, lies, deceit. Just like the scripture said, you've ruled the world with much lies and deceit. Ye have lived in pleasure on earth. You have and been wanton. You have nourished your hearts as in the days of slaughter. You have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. Hell, they just hung over 5 black men, so-called, in the last recent weeks. And all the police reports say that they all committed suicide. One of them had 2 broken arms and 1 broken leg before, and he still has managed somehow to hang himself. Yeah. All right, so let's play the next video because so many scriptures came, even more than I already had lined up in my head, came to mind as he began to speak. But let's now play Richard Wolf's. We'll play like 5-6 minutes of his video, and then I'm gonna come with the scriptures and close it out.
Living in truly extraordinary times, moments that pull back the curtain and reveal the genuine mechanics of power in this nation. It has become clear that Mr. Trump is facing a predicament far more severe than even I had initially predicted. Before dismissing this as mere...
And so does his counterpart, his boss, Bibi Netanyahu. All right? He as well. They both need perpetual war, because if the war stops, and then the courts will come after them. All right?
Political commentary, it's essential to analyze the situation from an economist's perspective, not a partisan one. What is unfolding is not simply the decline of one individual's political career. It is a symptom of a much deeper crisis within the American system itself. Donald Trump's difficulties are not just legal, although those are significant. They are fundamentally structural. He embodies the profound frustration and anger of tens of millions of Americans who feel let down by an economic system that promised them prosperity, but instead delivered insecurity, debt, and a diminishing quality of life. For decades, the working class, spanning all racial lines, has been systematically squeezed, while a small elite has accumulated obscene levels of wealth. Trump expertly positioned himself as the champion of that collective anger. However, the fundamental contradiction is that he has always been a product of the very system his followers resent. His entire life, his fortune, his celebrity, his business operations is deeply embedded in the corporate capitalist framework that has systematically eroded the livelihoods of working people. And now that contradiction is finally catching up to him. The trouble he faces is intensifying, not just because of legal pressures from prosecutors and judges, but because the foundational cracks in his public narrative are becoming impossible to ignore. The persona of the billionaire populist can only be sustained as long as the public believes he is an outsider fighting the establishment. But with every new indictment, every revelation of questionable financial practices, and every desperate move to evade accountability, he is exposed for what he truly is. Not an outsider, but an insider who manipulated the system until that same system eventually turned against him.
Exactly.
When that illusion shatters and his supporters begin to see that he is just as enmeshed in corruption as the figures he condemns, a political earthquake is inevitable. What makes Trump's current situation so precarious is that his base of supporters rallied behind him precisely because they were convinced he was not a member of the establishment club. They genuinely believed he was there to stand against the swamp. Now, with each indictment, every court appearance, and all the detailed allegations of misconduct, the illusion of his independence is being chipped away. This process gradually transforms the image of Trump, the populist, into Trump, the insider. For a political figure whose power is so heavily reliant on symbolism, this transformation is politically devastating. The deeper issue at play is the steady erosion of trust among his most loyal followers. For years, Trump successfully deflected one scandal after another by framing them as attacks from a corrupt elite determined to silence him. This narrative was effective as long as the perception held that he was fundamentally different from those elites. However, as his business records, tax information and political strategies are brought into the light, the distinction between Trump and the establishment he railed against becomes increasingly blurred. He starts to appear less like a victim of the system and more like an active participant in it.
Exactly.
Once that perception takes hold and his supporters begin to suspect that the man they place their faith in is not who he claimed to be, the very core of his political identity starts to fracture.
And that's already happened. All right. That's already happened. Let's go to the scriptures and this is Sirach 13, 3 and 4. It says, the rich man have done wrong, yet he threatened withal. The poor is wronged, and he must entreat also. So this man does all matter of wickedness, but then he turns around and puts it back on the people while pretending to be not a part of the system, and he was for the people, when no, he was always a part of the system. Everything the same thing that he was supposedly against, these insider rich people who basically trust fund babies whose foreparents stole every goddamn thing that they have, didn't earn any of it. He pretended to not be one of them and be for the people, and he's not. He always was one of those insiders. If thou be for his profit, he will use thee. But if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee. So this is what they do. You know, they use you if you're for them. And if you're not, then they just simply get rid of you, make you the problem. Like what he's been doing to all the brown people as of lately. All right. They used them to get wealthy. And then they turned around and made them the problem. All right. Which was his downfall. All right. Because those actions is what revealed the system is cracked and broken. And that the system was using them all along. All right. And that they needed them because everything went south extra quickly when they started rounding up, you know, when they actually put ICE into place. But ICE is basically the Gestapo for everyone. All right. And they were put in place, you know, to get rid of all the undesirables and make America great again. But what they really was done was used to set up the stormtroopers for the new Gestapo, for the NWO, for the MOTB, for the new system, which is going to be controlled by a micro C-hip and a social credit score. All right, so that people like, Marvin Vittori, myself, or anyone who speaks against or points out truth, all right, you don't have to say anything, you don't have to threaten anyone with violence or anything like that. You could just simply tell the truth. Truth is like fire to a paper house when that house is built and based upon lies. All right, this is couple more scriptures. I'm going to read Habakkuk 1 and 4, and it reads, therefore the law is slacked, and judgment doth never go forth, for the wicked doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth, and everyone's paying for it. That's what's happening. Last set of scriptures is not Ecclesiasticus, but Ecclesiastes 12. 12, 1 through 4, and it reads, remember now thy creators in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. See, so we've been telling you to remember your creator, you know, and the apostles and elders for, you know, for over 4 decades, you know, and you know, and basically, you know, Great Millstone has been on the internet since 2007, sounding this horn. All right, blowing the alarm of the things that are happening right now. And the funny thing is the things that are happening now, I could see them plain as day back in 2007. All right. But now the effect of them took all this time to affect everyone in a matter to where they can't be ignored anymore. But I saw it as soon as it, you know, as soon as the apostles and elders pointed it out in the scriptures, I could see it plain as it. But then that's because the Lord, you know, he's not dealing with everyone. All right. If it was that easy, then everyone would be in tune and aligned and understand the scriptures. You know, the books were sealed and are still sealed to many. Right. Only the elect understand these mysteries that are written plain upon tables. Ecclesiastes 12 and 2. While the sun and the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. And the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble and strong men shall bow themselves. That's happening now. And the grinders shall cease because they are few. There's barely any jobs out here. You know, and sometimes, you know, brothers, they get on the other brothers about finding work and finding jobs. And I have to continually remind them, you know what, it's not a lot of jobs left. It's not a lot of side hustles left. It's not a lot of hustles left. And brothers are, you know, just because you have a job and, you know, it's difficult. It's actually, we're just getting to that time and brothers need to embrace that. All right. It says, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and the daughters of music shall be brought low. So, you know, getting up early and hunting for jobs, you know, especially now, you know, you get up and you just turn on your computer now. Well, you used to actually get up and put on a shirt and tie, you know, and you would go, you know, to interviews, go fill out applications. You know, you would, you know, ride around the city, either on the train, bus, or in your car and go, you know, go meet people, shake hands and sit down and have interviews, you know, fill out applications. Now you just do it online, which is funny because it makes it even easier for them to discriminate against you, especially if your parents are giving you one of them dumbass names, you know, Davion, you know, them. I always say avoid women whose name starts with K-A or L-A. La this or Ka that. You know, unless you know they have a Hebrew name, and even then, you know, especially they've been following one of these bugged out ad water camps, you know, with these guys who wake up to the truth and then 2-3 years later they elders. You know, the guys that come in, get a white belt, get a couple stripes, and now they think they can out teach the upper belts. You know, but anyway, I'm gonna give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rekahak Badash Kwam Yasarala Abba Babal.